end of the 19th century and 20th century movements. So it will show movements of all parts of the country. In fact, our purpose is that in the national museums, then people come to the national museum, then they not only see the regional issues also, but they also have a feel of the tribal culture. So this museum is going to be ready by next year. So Secretary Culture and his entire team, and we have a national level committee who are working on the curation part as well as the building part. The civil part is complete. Then we have two more museums in Madhya Pradesh. One is Badalpur Museum in Chhindwara and Shankar Shah Museum in Jabalpur. Jabalpur Museum, Shankar Shah Museum is also a restoration of the area where Shankar Shah was present. So that museum will be ready by this year. And Badalpur Museum in Chhindwara is also under construction. That will also be ready by this year. Then in Northeast also we have one museum in Manipur, one in Mizoram, and one museum is also coming up in Kerala, one in Andhra Pradesh and one in Telangana. In fact, all our teams from different parts of the country who are associated with the museum officer as well as the curators, they are also here to see how the...
What about Andaman's? Do we have
Andaman has one museum, Archaeological Survey of India, so that museum is under Ministry of Culture. But Government of Andaman is also
Anthropological Survey of India.
Sorry, Anthropological Survey of India. So Andaman government is also coming up a big museum because there are 5 PVTGs community dedicated also coming up.
How difficult is it to attract visitors? Is this limited to people who are studying about tribes, academics who have interest in this subject? Is it difficult to get common people to come?
Most important part is that the museum should be a vibrant museum. So what, under guidance of Secretary of Culture and the National Level Committee, there will be a lot of events will be organized. For example, tribal dances will be there, tribal traditions, cultures, that also will be shown there. Then tribal cuisines, as Honorable Prime Minister also said, is very, very important. So tribal cuisines will also be shown. Then there will be play area. In some of the museums, we are also ensuring that people can come there and stay. In fact, Tribal Freedom Fighter Museum, in nowhere in the world such concept is there. It is for the first time under the inspiration of Honorable Prime Minister. Our ministry is coming up with these museums.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kapoor. We've got the Additional Director General, Department of Posts, Ms. Smita Kumar, with us. Ma'am, could you please share with us your experience of philately museums in India? I know that the National Museum of Philately at Dak Bhavan exists, and you've got some rare and unique postage stamps there. Do tell us more about such museums, and if there are more than the one that I've seen at Dak Bhavan.
Thank you very much. First of all, again, I would like to compliment Ministry of Culture for organizing this event, because for museum, I think I have not come across any event earlier. So it's a good platform for sharing experiences. And as you said, National Philatelic Museum has been functioning since 1968 in Dak Bhavan itself. It was refurbished and again reopened to public in 2011. Besides, we have a number of philatelic galleries, mostly in most of the postal circle headquarters. And we have 78 philatelic bureaus which function in the post offices. So as far as the Department of Post is concerned, the whole ecosystem of museum is part of a larger ecosystem of philately promotion and philately development. And philately, as you know, we are the creators of value in the sense that issuing a stamp is a sovereign function, so we have access to that. And a lot of in fact, in the National Philatelic Museum, all the stamps from 47 onwards have been displayed there. There are some other stamps also which are not present.
Considering the times that we live in, I mean, today communication has, taken on a different genre altogether. So, before the computers, or before the internet, or before the mobile phones, it was the post that was, most critical to communicating. So, how is the National Museum using technology or materials or communication concepts to be able to further keep that alive as well as increase the communication?
Actually, it's a work in progress. We have started with digitization. We already have a website where all the the stamps and all are available. The only thing, it needs a lot of work in the sense that you have to develop a story around that. So that at present we're not able to play so freely. Otherwise, we do have digitized stamps and all. But what I'd like to emphasize is it's not only the National Museum and others museums and bureaus. We also take philately outside the system. We go to any anything important happening anywhere, and we will have a philatelic event associated with
the chronicling of.
Yes, so you have Subhash Chandra Bose anniversary, and then we go to the school where this Mr. Bose studied, and we display a philatelic exhibition. And we have a very well laid out program of district, state and national philatelic exhibition. We had a national philatelic exhibition in February this year, Andhra Pradesh. And for the first time, we played with a lot of technology there. So that gives us some pointers to go ahead in terms of our museums also. We had these immersive experiences that Mrs. Zainul Bhai was talking about. So we had these audio-visual VR experiences for development of science, because you see the journey of stamps is very intricately linked to the journey of a nation, and every important event is depicted one way or other. So we had these immersive experience through VR, and it was a great hit with
even the experience of creating a stamp.
Yes.
Graphically being able to represent it.
Yes.
What goes into it? So do you have workshops? Do you have dissemination?
In fact, National Museum itself is a hub for that, and in states we go to these galleries in the bureaus where we have these workshops and all on how to really enjoy a stamp beyond its use as just a miniature art or something. So if you speak to a philatelist, there are so many aspects they are so enthusiastic and so excited about. So we do have
worldwide. It's not just limited to India.
It's worldwide. We have WADP, World Association for Development of Philately, and under that, inclusive of that, there are number of philatelic associations, international ones. We also participate in international exhibitions. So there's a lot of information sharing and information development. So it's a very vibrant this thing, and we engage with children in a very big way. So we have these programs of Dhai Akhar, of letter writing competition, UPU competition. So through all that, and even in the museums, we have these visits from the school children, and we kind of organize audio-visual. We have amphitheater there. We kind of engage in a big way with the children. So I think that is the way forward. But technology, yes, I think we still need to have our agenda clear.
Thank you so much. I think we've covered everyone on the stage. I just have a few general questions which I'd like any of you all to answer. In the last decade or so, museums have shifted their focus towards becoming a more visitor-oriented experience. And museums in India tend to remain spaces that you go once in a while, maybe on a school trip, and then you forget about it. You never go to a museum ever again unless you're forced to. So how are your ministries working to change this? And are they going on to I referred to the immersive experience, referred to a tactile experience that is being encouraged worldwide. Are any of the ministries working on those aspects? Would you like, anybody can jump in?
Can I answer?
Please.
So, broadly there are 4 reasons why we think people don't visit museums to that extent in India as they would in other countries which have well-developed museum ecosystem. I think the first is the way that we curate our museums. As Adil said, we have a huge repertoire of artifacts to display. But I think the science of curation is still not that developed here as it is in other countries. I'll give you an example of the Metropolitan Museum in New York. They have a very small India gallery. About maybe 25, 30 objects are all that they get to display at one point in time. But it's one of their most popular galleries or sections. And the entire sort of story about that is the way that they curate it. They use the reading material, they use the lighting, they use the route that people need to take. So it's that part which I think is very important. The second is that we don't have museums as a cultural space. So, there's just the building, there are artifacts, people come, they go through the galleries, they want to sit and, have a cup of coffee, they want a reading space where they can just sit and, read something with a laptop. So it's not it's an inhibiting environment rather than an inviting environment. So it's that environment issue which I think is the second reason. The third is the fact that, museums do not connect to the stories. So you have the same set of artifacts which create one story being shown in different galleries. In one way it's related to curation, but at another level it's related to the entire conceptualization of museums. I have seen in my last 1.5 years of tenure in this ministry that whenever an entity is asked to develop a museum, the easiest thing that they do is to appoint a quote-unquote agency which is, promoting itself as a museum professional and, just design the gallery without even thinking about, what content should come there, how should the architecture juxtapose with the content. So the brick and mortar becomes more important than the content. So that, to my mind, is the third reason. And finally, I think we don't publicize museums enough. I think there is some kind of a despondency in the midst of so many important things that we have to do. We have to uplift people from poverty, we have to maintain law and order, we have to create economic growth, we have to, ensure health and education to everyone. The entire Sarkari system has least interest in, creating and promoting museums. So it's a mindset within government also, which is ultimately responsible for this state of affairs. I think this Museum Expo is an attempt by the ministry to address all these four problems. And as we go to day 2 and day 3, we will be meeting culture ministers of large states and impressing on them that museums are not just something that you have to do by way of formality. They are something very unique and beautiful, and you have to take that kind of interest in developing them.
Thank you so much.
I think one more point that I would like to leave with all of us here is there are, despite the challenges that have been mentioned, there are very good examples that all of us can learn from, and I can give you two. One is the Crafts Museum right next door. I was for 2 years the director of the Crafts Museum way back in 2003-05. But that has that immersive experience because it has reconstructed rural architecture. It has a set of about 50 artisans who are right there doing their handicrafts and handlooms, so people can understand what goes into those crafts. And it has, during my time at least, we used to organize these temporary exhibitions. I remember artist Jatin Das had this huge collection of hand fans, pankha,
Yes.
which was